Good afternoon, fellow inmates. I've lost track how many days of lockdown we've been in. I think we're around about, week 8 now. So if any of you know how long we've been stuck in this house arrest state, please let me know. But yeah, let's call it 8 weeks. That's safe. And a lot of stuff's happened since we got the announcement from St. Cyril the first time, including good news that gun shops can trade again. E-commerce, and then obviously, selling stuff restricted to level 4, whatever the heck that's supposed to mean. But gun shops can trade. So thanks to Outdoor Investment Holdings, those are the people behind Safari Outdoor, they decided, they had enough of the police interfering in their commercial activity. They went to court on a Friday afternoon. They got an urgent interdict that allowed not only them, but any firearm dealership to trade as of immediate effect. Unfortunately, the South African Police Service has failed in interpreting what the court's intentions are, what the directive, or rather what the interdict says, and they've decided to narrowly apply what the court ordered to only 3 dealerships. Now, there is another urgent application from the South African Arms and Ammunition Dealers Association that will force the police to obey what the court says, but it's getting a touch ridiculous now, to the extent that I hope a punitive cost order is forthcoming, where the court actually goes after the brigadier or colonel or whomever the stupid, vapid idiot was who signed off on that directive and says, you know what? We're going to punish you. We're going to take money from your budget. We're going to take money from your pension. And we're actually going to hold you in contempt of court in your individual capacity. I would love to see a brigadier or a SAPS colonel arrested in handcuffs, thrown in the back of a bakkie, driven to court to please go and explain to the magistrate or judge why they're in contempt of court and then get charged with that. So, we can all dream. And that's one of my major dreams, is for that to happen. And hopefully, something comes off this. But either way, according to the court, gun shops are open. They can retail absolutely anything online, but there's still a little bit of uncertainty about exactly what they can sell to you as a member of the public. So that's a little bit of good news. I see all my regulars are here. How's it, Sebastian, Paul, and Conrad, and everyone else? I'll get to the comment section shortly, but it's good to see all of you guys here. So yeah, I'm not going to say I've been a bit quiet. It's been a while since I've done an individual impromptu live stream where I just shoot the breeze with you guys and girls and just talk about stuff in general. I had the pleasure of having 2 really cool guests on this Paratus live stream podcast thing. It was Arno Barlow about 2 Saturdays ago. It's still on my YouTube channel, and it's still on the Facebook page. And that was a cool hour-long discussion about combatives. So I do recommend giving that a watch. And then this past Saturday, I had Walt Mayer in, for want of a better word, the studio with me. And we talked about austere environment, medical and trauma care, and what you can do as someone in a post-lockdown world, sort of skills and equipment that are relevant to you and your space. And that's why yesterday I picked up one of these. It's a combat application tourniquet. I've got 2 now, one that's in a kit and this one, which is on my person permanently, either in my back pocket or somewhere else. And it's also, one of those things that you need to practice with, because this can be very confusing if you have never used one. And when you do need it, it's pretty important, because you've got blood gushing from an artery, so you have seconds more than minutes at your disposal. So you kind of need to be semi-competent in getting that thing on and knowing how it works. So if you have a tourniquet, learn how to use it, practice with it, train with it. If you don't have one, please consider getting one. And you can now buy these things online. So from a whole bunch of reputable suppliers. I obviously got mine from Wild Medics in Somerset West, part of the CHS bunker. So since this is more of an interaction between me and you, I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to start reading what you guys have said to me. Paul, yeah, I am wearing verboten cotton clothing. This is supposed to be an undershirt, isn't it? According to our Ibrahim Patel winter wardrobe. So Sebastian's ruining his political career. At least you've got one, bro. I'm still developing a career since flying isn't really going to work out for me anytime soon. I'm glad Paul at least counted the amount of days we've been in lockdown. Yeah, 9mm hollows are in short supply. There's a lot of stuff in short supply at the moment, which it depends on when the suppliers are able to supply again. And obviously not the interest rates, the exchange rate is going to be a right bastard with everything we import. So yeah. Yeah, it is, Alan. I'm trying to grow a beard so people think I'm not 12 when I interact with them. So apparently I look too young and I need to do something about it. And growing a beard's not really going to work for me. So stubble is the best I got. Well, hello to you too, Laurie. Good to see you here, Jay Armand. The Dear South Africa thing, yes. Dear South Africa is a good friend. It's run by Rob Hutchinson. Rob is a super guy. It was them that got e-commerce up and running again. I just feel compelled to clarify this. I have good friends in the DA. Caleb Kachalia does excellent work there. Zach Mbele, Diane Kohler-Barnard, a whole bunch of other MPs are doing really good work. But this misconstruing of who got e-commerce opened, it wasn't the DA that achieved this. This was Dear South Africa, and they managed to achieve this thanks to you, the public, who either donated time or money or effort in order for them to get their legal papers in order. They threatened to sue the government. They hit them with a lawyer's letter, and miraculously, mere hours later, e-commerce was open again. So this was Dear South Africa getting results for us already. They're a really good bunch of people. They are legitimate. They've got all the bona fides. So if you want to take the fight to the government pertaining to lockdown, Dear South Africa is they're the horse to back, or one of the horses to back, at least in my opinion. I suppose you are also all aware of the fact that GOSA is defending its interdict against the SAPS on Friday, the 22nd. This will be with a full bench of the Supreme Court of Appeal judges that will be hearing the case, or rather, sitting and judging it. And I'm cautiously optimistic. A lot of people are very in the know, are very optimistic about it. I did a live stream discussion with Paul last week about it, Paul Oxley. It's also on the YouTube channel. It's saved there, and it is on the Facebook page, and I will repost it. So please give it a watch. It answers a lot of questions you may have about that court case, so that I won't have to bore you with it and run over everything again. And it's also a really good bit of marketing for GOSA. If you have got like 5 or 10 Rand to donate, there's 20,000 people that subscribe to this page and this channel. If each of you gave $10, that's 200,000 Rand. That's the court case paid for, amongst other things. So if you've got 10 Rand lying around to spare, please consider maybe sending some of it in GOSA's direction. We will really appreciate it. Why did they even stop sales, Tian? Of guns or of ammo or of stuff in general? Remember one thing. This is not about a virus. This is not about flattening the curve. This is about none of that stuff. That was all just useful window dressing in order to implement the regulations we currently have. This is about power and control and about infringing on your civil liberties. And I mean, we now see that Bheki Cele is himself accused of breaking lockdown regulations, the same lockdown regulations he so vigorously and energetically wanted to enforce down on everybody else. So this is really Animal Farm. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others, and they don't care. Why should we? This is not about a virus. It's about control. It's a bit like gun control. It's not about guns. It's not about violence. It's about control. Oh yeah, Rob, the man himself. Welcome to my mundane live stream, and thanks again for everything you and DSA are doing. This is the man, and you even speak my language. Aloha. By the way, all of you guys watching, how many of you want a Paratus themed Hawaiian shirt? Because I saw the preliminary design yesterday. It's looking really good. I need to figure out where to get the stuff manufactured that's the most cost effective, and I will probably have to set up something along the lines of an minimum ordering quantity. So the more of you guys that want it, I can start with an order list, and we can get the shirts made. But first things first, get the design out. You guys can see what it looks like, and if you're happy, then we go with it. And that'll be cool. I mean, I want one. I desperately want a Paratus themed Boogaloo shirt. Sorry, Hawaiian shirt. Hawaiian. No talk of the big igloo. And yeah, that'll make me happy. And if it makes you happy, even better. Armand, I see Patel is hinting that Cape Town should remain on level 4. What a joke. Maybe Western Cape should lower the amount of testing. Yeah, this is what happens when you're efficient and you actually do stuff that the government should be doing but are not. You get victimized. So if they leave Cape Town at level 4 longer, look, level 4 doesn't exist where I live. People are out in the streets, commerce is going, nobody cares, the police have lost interest. No one gives a stuff. Unless you're a surfer at Meisenberg or Komiki, or unless you're a gogo selling achar in the townships, the cops don't care, really. They no one cares anymore. I see the odd roadblock here or there as I move around, because I actually am performing an essential service these days to try and earn some money since I'm not flying planes. But the fact of the matter is, the soldiers are standing around with their one magazine with 30 rounds. Interestingly enough, some of them are wearing body armor. I see the SANDF do have body armor that they issue some of the troops, but not all of them. Yeah, Paul, after 5 weeks, finally get my UAF money for my staff, so they have stopped threatening to necklace me. You know what? I think you're doing better than my employer, actually. So congratulations. Would you mind emailing me your black magic trick that you used to get a UAF payout for your staff, so I can forward it to my boss? What if Cape Town identifies as coastal Gauteng? I think we should start changing our license plates. Indeed, the problem with Cape Town is if we want to start identifying as Gauteng, we all better learn how to drive better, because it's the one thing about CT, guys. We can't drive. Like, we're terrible. We are awful drivers. Even in lockdown, when traffic volumes are lower, I am still frustrated on the roads with my fellow road users in CT. We just can't get it right. Can't wait for the new airline the government wants to start. Yes, Sebastian. This is the one thing that's really kind of getting to me is Lufthansa is losing $1 million, or was it 1 million euros? I can't remember which, but $1 million per hour. Emirates is investigating the retrenchment of possibly 30,000 employees. That's 30% of their overall workforce they want to potentially lay off. Richard Branson is trying to sell his controlling stake in Virgin Atlantic, and I think he already got rid of Virgin Australia. All the big players are getting out of the game. The airline industry is looking at shrinking globally up to 25 to 30% because of lockdowns. It's a mess and a bloodbath out there, and whomever survives will be fighting for table scraps with the rest of the gang. And it's a mess. And I mean, it's not just the airlines. Airlines are a canary in the coal mine because they're so sensitive to economic change. But even support industries like Dimension Data, massive IT company with their parent company in Japan, unless I miss my guess, they have a whole ton of subsidiaries that they own. They're retrenching, I believe, for the first time in like their 37-year history, and they're looking at laying off 500 odd people. I mean, it's literally a jobs bloodbath. Laurie, cat can be used for keeping someone who you've just dismembered life. Am I supposed to put stuff like this on my channel? Are you guys supposed to be commenting stuff like this? I mean, it's not like I'm not on like 500 watch lists already, guys. Thanks, Laurie. Like now I'm just going to be added to another one. The ZACP is still kind of going, Tian. but a lot of it involves stuff that's out of my hands as an MP candidate pertaining to actioning a new constitution. I need to check in with Canthan and Ramon what the current status of it is, but it hasn't disappeared. It's not gone, but it isn't particularly doing anything at the moment either. Steve, the Rustenburg incident, is that the house invasion / land invasion thing? I saw the video, but when I saw it initially, there was no context to it. It doesn't surprise me, though, whether it's for political reasons or criminal. The sort of property-related crime where people's property rights, bodily integrity rights, human rights, whatever you want to call them, are going to stop being violated by opportunistic criminals or politically motivated individuals. That stuff's going to happen. The powder keg is loaded. The situation economically and socially in this country is just ripe for this sort of bullshit. And unless the authorities like stamp down on it and stop stuff like this hard and fast where it's encountered, it has the potential for massive amounts of chaos to just erupt. So my take on it, limited what I've seen, there something better come from it from an official capacity. Otherwise, trouble's going to brew. That's just my personal opinion. Hello, Vorstier. It's good seeing you here again. Always nice seeing regulars. What do I think of the Collins Causa judgment? What a judgment that was. I mean, I posted parts of it on the Paratus Facebook page. It essentially vindicates concerns a whole bunch of people had before lockdown started. It says sending soldiers into the township is a bad idea. It's like bad stuff's going to happen. The mandate is not clear. The language use from senior officers, from ministers, from troops on the ground indicates that they have a unhealthy approach at best to the situation. And the Causa judgment just confirms it. It confirms that in too many minds within the SANDF, they treated this as a form of warfare, not against a virus, but against, non-compliers. And that they saw non-compliers as being everybody essentially in Alexandra, and they've declared war on the public they're supposed to serve. So when an organ of state declares war on the public, stuff like this is going to happen. They're going to murder members of the public, which is exactly what happened in the Causa case. So keeping a close eye on how that develops, the court required the SANDF to put a whole bunch of stuff in place, to go through a whole bunch of processes, including going after these guys who are accused of murdering him and reporting back, what they've done. So I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about this judgment and the aftermath of it within the next few days and weeks, because it's significant. It's the sort of thing the court should have done ages ago, but I suppose there wasn't really any reason for them to intervene up until something bad happened. And this is the unfortunate reality of our system. The court can only intervene after there's already been a victim. In very few cases can it preempt a situation like this where an innocent person is murdered or rendered dead through extrajudicial killing by organs of state. And that's why I'm personally so against the SANDF being used at all internally, is someone first has to die before someone pulls their choke chains. We can't expect the politicians to do it, and we can't expect senior officers to do it, because they all got the same sick mindset. It's a sick organization. I'm going through my comments. Yes, I know I need to shave. It's I just didn't. It's very hipster. I know I just need a flat cap and some Ray-Bans. Armand, unfortunately, yes, that's what happened. And I mean, Stian Nason had the opportunity to walk it back on Ramon's morning shot show this afternoon. I don't know if he did. I will check in with Ramon, what the guy said, but I specifically also made a point on Twitter to say it would be great if John could give some credit to DSA for the e-commerce thing, because to be frank, that was DSA. Dylan, this is one for Rob. I don't think the exercise thing has been addressed yet. The e-commerce thing was on its own, but I know that's still on their radar. I know that the exercise thing is still on their radar. And to be honest, the fact that exercise is restricted for 3 hours in the morning, I don't think I have to tell you why it's absurd. I mean, there have been people that are more eloquent than I that wrote about it and spoke about it and why it's stupid. Chris Venter, anyone know if Winky Wonky service is open for fire applications? Firearm applications, I believe you can do license applications for firearms with your DFO at the moment. At least that's my take on it, or that's what I've been told. I might be wrong, but I'm sure someone will correct me in the comment section if that's the case. What happens when all these court cases smack the government and they ignore it? Well, this is the thing. This is where the judiciary also need to get a bit more passionately involved, in the sense of finding individual government officials who are acting in contempt of court and smacking them down in their personal capacity, going after them in their personal capacity by hurting their pockets, hurting their bank accounts, pensions, and them physically by, having them arrested and found guilty of contempt of court and then sentence them to prison. That's what they have to do. And you're correct, Ahmad. That's exactly what's happening. SADA is in court today to force the police to obey a court order that was already issued. And it is as stupid as it sounds. And this is the type of nonsense. And again, the court needs to start losing its patience with the government and with government officials. Chris, thank you. Yes, please do support GOSA if you can, or if you guys want to. Jeepers, am I behind on comments, or are you guys just writing a lot? Yes, Brian. I would pay good money to see the Cat in the Hat be forced to do push-ups, the cops force everybody else to do. Hang on. Now, this is the one problem with StreamYard. Someone asked me the other day, what do I use for live streaming? I use StreamYard. I'm also looking at Ecamm because I'm a Crapple user. I'm a Mac elitist, and it apparently works quite well. But so far, so good. Paul, are there any proper SADF soldiers? I'm sure there are. I mean, even in a sick organization, you have to find some good guys. I mean, to be honest, I work for the state, technically. I work for an SOE. Whether or not this SOE will still exist when lockdown is lifted, I don't actually know. And I am privileged enough that even though the organization is sick, I work with really, really, really good and dedicated and highly professional people. So even in shitty places, you can still find good people. SANDF might be a bit hard to find the good guys still, unfortunately. I mean, I know they must be there somewhere if you scratch deep enough, but where exactly, I don't know. Steve, shirt design should have little Easter eggs, i.e. semi-hidden firearms. It's actually a really good idea. I really like incorporating that into the overall floral design of the Hawaiian shirt. So yeah, I'll remember that. I'll put a pin in it, and I'll communicate to the graphic designer. Laurie, why place the fuckers responsible for cause of death on full fuck? Well, the only reason they're placed on full pay, as far as I understand, is that is a standard legal procedure when you suspend someone. Is they're almost always suspended on full pay. Now, obviously, if they are found guilty of murder, the suspension of full pay ends and they go to prison, which is where they belong. For are equivalent of a life sentence, in my opinion. Here we go, Rob. The exercise issue has been addressed. We didn't receive a reply from our legal letter of demand from Minister, so we're taking further action now. Legal team was briefed yesterday. Fantastic stuff, Rob. And that should answer that question. So if you are suddenly restored to your right of exercise to go outside your house for a run after 9 a.m. in the morning and before 7 at night now, whatever the hell the curfew now is, it'll be thanks to Dear SA. But I'll make sure to put whatever happens on the DSA website, on their Facebook page, on their Twitter account, on Paratus, so that you guys can see it for yourselves. But again, thank you, Rob. Appreciate the comment. Lots of people asking me about DFOs. Okay, so most don't take new license applications. I wonder why that is, because there's nothing that prevents you from a new application. In fact, let's say through e-commerce, you purchase a new gun from a gun shop, right? Firearm dealership. You go online, you buy the gun online. They then courier you your documents. So all the correct channels have been followed. You get your signed, license application form. You go to your DFO and you apply for it. As far as I'm aware, their duties haven't changed. They're still supposed to do what they're legally mandated to do. So that sounds like a bullshit story that they don't want to take new license applications. They should actually just do their bloody jobs. It's the same problem we always have with members of the SAPs, is they just don't want to do their jobs. I think Sonanet, if yours doesn't want to take new applications, on the CHS bunker tonight, it's the Technical Tuesday. It's Max Rosley's on there. He'll be talking legal stuff. Please tune in to that on CHS bunker and ask him this question, because I think from a legal point of view, they are obligated to do their jobs. That's dereliction of duty. They shouldn't refuse them. Just going through the comments again. Hi, Mr. Ice. It's good to see you on here. And if they're on suspension for 3 full years of pay, that money's gone fair. That is a problem, which is why investigation into this shouldn't take 3 years. It's something that should be hopefully settled as soon as possible. I need to go read the court judgment on that again, but the matter has been opened already by the courts, so there is a necessary requirement for feedback and for action to be taken. They can't just suspend these guys and just leave it indefinitely. And to be honest, if you're just an infantryman that messed up, you're not important enough for the military to protect you. You will get your ass kicked, hopefully. That's how it should work. Steve, yes, there are in fact. And if the guys are shooting IPSC or IDPA with you in their personal capacity, that's the kind of soldier that takes what he does more seriously than others. They're actually out there trying to develop their skills. There aren't many of them. There are some, and they are actually pretty damn good shots. A lot of them they ran into, but unfortunately, there's not a lot. I've got no need to courier documents, so you scanned and printed docs a few times. Do they? I think one of the concerns was like they get sticky on electronic signatures, although they shouldn't, because it's still completely legal and administratively correct. But again, I think we are compensating for the lowest common denominator by just appeasing non-existing requirements. And this, of course, is something in the Firearms Control Act that says it must be physically signed by the person in the firearm dealership who signs it out. Yeah, I think you are pretty much covering it. So the intentions were noble, but his actions were stupid. So if the mine doesn't want to protect their own property, sucks to be them. Don't as a private person or as an individual try to step in for somebody else's stuff and put your own life and well-being on the line. That's not going to end well for you. And if things escalate and you end up shooting defensively under such circumstances, it's going to be your ass that pays the legal fees and go through that whole stuff up. So choose wisely. Where and how and when you intervene, if you intervene. Armand, I think you're correct. I vaguely require this as well, that the outcome of the investigation has a set time frame for June. So they shouldn't be sitting on suspension without pay, with pay for too long. Yeah, there were cases of this, and it was a good question, but it sounds like they have until June. Jade, hello. Good to see. Sorry to see you, Jay. I'm going to call you Jade now for Jaded. And yeah, we are pretty jaded, I think, after 8 weeks in lockdown, Stan, which this has been the longest time I've been under house arrest in my entire life. Now, I'm a bit of a recluse to a certain degree. I like being at home. I like being surrounded by my creature comforts. I will always look for an excuse not to leave the house. And even I'm becoming like claustrophobic with the walls closing in on me now and starting to hear voices and not taking this very well. So I would hate to think what it must be like for someone who wants to be outside, who's used to working outside, that's used to interacting with people all the time, that's worried about their business or their employer or their job or whatever. And the level of anxiety you must be feeling being locked in your house and effectively deprived of your ability to earn an income, deprived of your ability to exercise, deprived of your ability to interact with other people. It must be insanely bad for your mental and emotional health, which is why I've got a very strong feeling that there are going to be a lot of mental health issues that are going to manifest after this lockdown is lifted. A lot of people just aren't going to be okay. They're not going to be okay to go back to work. They're not going to be okay going back to high pressure environments. I mean, honest question to you guys now. There's a whole bunch of you watching. Would you seriously, if lockdown is lifted 1st of June, boom, would you buy a plane ticket somewhere? Would you have any desire or need or finances available to fly anywhere, especially if flying is going to subject you to a whole bunch of weird regulations where you're going to have to be at the airport like 3 hours beforehand to be screened and tested and swabbed and God knows what else. And it's going to take you 5 hours or 6 hours to get to Johannesburg, whereas previously it would be a 2-hour flight, only an hour before and half an hour after, landing. Would you subject yourself to that, or would you rather Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Skype or get in your car and drive? Especially if it's going to be more expensive, which it will be. Please, let me know. Let me know if you are a consumer, what you would do. Pedia. So the rate of gun crimes and killings using guns at its high levels decade in New Zealand, but the lefties still believe that law-abiding citizens have to relinquish. Yeah. There's an article I wrote a couple of months ago, and I'll repost it about Australia. Now, what happened in Australia after they brought in the National Firearms Agreement, that was after that massacre in Tasmania. I can't remember the name of the perpetrator or the name of the town in which it happened, but in any event, that was in the late 90s, I think 97. And they brought the National Firearms Agreement in place, which banned semi-auto rifles, it banned handguns. It was far-reaching and extremely hectic. The Australian murder rate increased immediately after the NFA. And it took them 7 years to get the murder rate back down to pre-NFA levels. And one of the interesting things is that although, they didn't have mass shootings of the same kind, they did have, funnily enough, 2 or 3 mass shootings after the NFA. The Australians love telling you, ever since they brought in their gun laws, they've never had a mass shooting. It's bullshit. They've had 2 or 3, mass shootings since then. But they've had bucket loads of mass killings, vehicular attacks, arsons, mass stabbings, with high death rates. So all that happened is criminals stopped shooting people in violent, confrontational, interpersonal crime. They started stabbing them to death. And, since you can't defend yourself with a gun in Australia anymore, the criminal doesn't need to worry about you being effective at protecting yourself. So a lot of people in Australia started getting stabbed to death, bludgeoned to death, and then, of course, you had the mass killings that carried on. So the immediate result of the NFA on the Australian murder rate was not to lower it at all. It bumped it up by a lot. I can't remember offhand. And the spending on police resources in Australia had to increase hugely above its population growth rate to get that murder rate back down. And that is probably the reason that the Australian murder rate reduced, is because police resources were astronomically increased in response to the rising murder rate. So, yeah. Now I've rambled enough. Let me see what you guys have wrote to me. Paul kind of covers it. Lockdown is existing. It's not living. We're not living. We're just kind of we're just kind of sitting in our homes, doing what we can. Michael, buddies and staff are good people, not what you'd find as typical. Yeah. There, there are most certainly good people still in state employ. I'd like to say I might be one of them, but I don't know if I'm good, and I don't know if I'm still in state employ. I will do my best to not start talking in voices. I'm certainly not going to try and like make up voices as we go along. That would, yeah, that would probably scare off my viewership, and you guys would just delete my channel, never come back. I think Chris sums up exactly how the majority of us feels right now. I'm so desperate to get onto a shooting range. It's unbelievable. Although, as part of my moving around, rendering essential services, I had the pleasure yesterday of touching a real-life HK416, not a Heckler Koch MR223, not an MR556, not the neutered civilian version, the real deal. It says HK416 on the receiver. It is an HK416, although a semi-auto only, 100% legal. But it's a rifle that retails for about 180,000 Rand. It's ridiculous. I'm in love. I've always wanted one of these things. No way in hell I can afford it unless I win the lottery, or someone who's has a CIT heist business on the side just wires me some money because they're benevolent. But it's as awesome in real life as you think it is. Paul, it probably is. And I'm going to tell you why I say that. The government probably only has enough financial resources left for food parcels, SASSA grants, all the other stuff for another week or two before it needs to start figuring out how it's going to finance this massive state machine it's trying to run. Because income tax almost doesn't exist right now. I can promise you VAT is right down at the bottom. And the sin taxes from alcohol and cigarette sales just haven't happened for 2 months. That's a huge proportion. It's like 17% of sin taxes, pay as you earn, corporate taxes, all this sort of stuff gone. And not only are they wiped out for the 2 months, there's also an extensive multiplier effect that means we'll feel these things for much longer. Now, there's only about, I think, 5 or 7 million registered pay-as-you-earn taxpayers in SA, and of them, like 180 or 200,000 max are supporting or paying the vast majority of income tax in this country. So our entire pyramid is like that, right? So we balance the needs of everyone on grants and welfare at the top on this very narrow little tip that carries it. And we've taken a sledgehammer and we started smacking pieces of that tip out. So this pyramid is going to move over. It can't do anything else. I mean, many years ago, Stefan Molyneux, who I don't subscribe to anymore, but regardless of what you think of the man, he said something that was true. And he said South Africa is a penal colony of welfare addiction. And that's what we are. Government has gotten people addicted to welfare. It's acting as like a surrogate parent to adults, which is always a sick relationship. The sort of weird codependency nonsense going on. And I've always said that, our relationship with the South African government as a country is like being in a relationship with someone suffering from, a borderline personality disorder. Like the government will love bomb you, and then just as they've got the hook into you, they'll turn on you and they'll neglect you, and they'll turn into a monster, and everything will be your fault, and they'll gaslight you, and they'll ghost you, and they'll manipulate you. And that's exactly, it's a sick, codependent relationship that the South African society is in with our government. And you can see the results for themselves almost every single day. I mean, just take a drive on the N2 if you're in Cape Town. Khayelitsha is a direct result of that sort of thinking, the sort of social engineering bullshit, this economic interventionist socialist type thought. So yeah, Armand, you want to visit your P, so you would fly. But I think there's a lot of people who would buy plane tickets post lockdown, are people with close family or people dear to them in other parts of the country, and they just want to get to them as quickly as humanly possible in order to see them again for the first time in months, because I think people crave human touch, they crave human interaction, they've missed it. So that would make complete sense to me. Whether or not that's enough people to that would fill up actual airplanes, or whether people would rather just drive, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think a lot of habits, travel habits, might change. And if it's true that globally the aviation industry shrinks by about 25 to 30%, or the market shrinks by that, I don't think that's an unrealistic claim. ICE all depends on all the screenings. I might get on a plane and might not come back. Well, you know what? Anyone who wants to bail out of SA at this point in time, I'm not going to blame you. You can drive to Sweden if you're committed enough, Paul. That's always the question. Are you dedicated enough to drive all the way to Stockholm, where we have the syndrome that we're all suffering from at the moment? Yeah, sorry guys, just catching up on comments again. So I'm not ignoring you. I'm actually reading everything you wrote. And I don't do well with walking and chewing gum at the same time, which is also I don't do well with reading comments and talking to you at the same time. Well, kind of. So yeah, Joan says thousands of us work overseas as well, and it's usually a specific time frame. So time's running out for us. We have to fly no matter what, which makes sense. But that's kind of a one-way trip-ish type thing. Yeah, it was a Port Arthur massacre. Where did I see that? Why does this thing keep jumping? But whomever, yes, Owen, thank you for reminding me. That was Port Arthur in Tasmania. That was the massacre. Okay, a lot of people actually would fly, but a lot of you would drive. If I'm counting vaguely here, just in the comment section, roughly, it's about a 50-50 split. But also affordability is a major issue, as it would be. I mean, I won't be able to afford I wouldn't be able to afford a plane ticket. Yes, the 416 is big dollar, dude. Like, I promise you, if I had the money, I would have to have considerably more money than 180K to be able to justify that sort of expenditure. But cheap as I would sell a kidney. So if you want one, and if you're willing to pay me 180,000 Rand for my kidney, let me know. Excellent, Armand. I think maybe we should do exactly what you're doing. I didn't even think about this. Is when DRSA opens for comments for level 3 regulations, which they will, we should all, and I will try and put in not my ear for this, we should all comment we want shooting ranges to open. And I mean, there's 20,000 people on this page. If we can combine that with the 50 or 60,000 odd on GOSA, those of us who aren't, members of both, we could probably try and get. Yeah, I see no reason why not. I mean, how easy is it to social distance on a shooting range? It's basically an open park, just as easy as social distancing on a golf course, in my opinion. I'd be game. I'm checking you out with my SA connections. Please do. They shouldn't hate me too much, even though I keep saying that SA should close down. It would also, it would save us all massively on the taxpayer money. Lynette, hello. Good to see you here. Going off the cash in transit tracks is breaking lockdown rules, guys. We were not allowed to do that. You wouldn't want to break the law. My hare is deur mekaar. I know. It's getting a bit long. I think I need to go for a haircut again, a black market haircut. So, yeah. Brian, the most irritating thing in the world are the idiots who cling to stay safe, stay at home stupidity. Does this mentality still exist, though? How many? Okay, I know it still exists. Stupid question. Let's just act for a moment. You didn't hear that, and we scrub it from your memory. How does one at this stage, when you know that the whole flatten the curve rhetoric, which was never about the virus anyway, but let's act like it was. Let's act like the government actually listened to their so-called subject matter experts, and that the whole flatten the curve thing was to prepare hospitals give them time to prepare so that when the virus moves through society, that they can hospitalize and treat everybody that gets it. We have now flattened the curve. All the healthcare professionals and experts and whatever have told us we flattened the curve. There really is no reason at all to stay at home anymore. We must carry on. What sort of weird cognitive dissonance are you suffering from that you are still clinging to stay home, save lives? It's almost like a cult, isn't it? It's a bit like we're all in a cult. We're busy worshipping at the altar of the lockdown. And no matter how irrational it is, we will keep sacrificing a firstborn every week. Well, not every week, multiple firstborns every day at the current rate of mortality to this god of lockdown in order to appease it. It's this weird pagan tribal thing that I think someone who does like anthropology or whatever should write a research paper on it, or like someone who does like group psychology should write a research paper on it, because it makes zero sense to me, like none. You know what, Sebastian, at this stage, I'd be willing to fly on a MAX quite happily, whether or not the airplane tries to kill me. Well, your chances of being killed as a passenger on a 737 MAX is probably still higher than being killed by coronavirus. Someone do the math on that for me, please. I would love to know if something like that is true. I mean, strictly speaking, if they never fixed the problem with the MAX, would it have killed as many people if we just let it go as COVID-19? Who knows? Oh, yeah, shooting guys love PPE, so we won't even have a problem. Yeah, we're already wearing eyes and ears. We'll just need to wear something over our face. So here's the thing. Train as you fight, right? So get one of those proper like full face like military gas masks and just shoot with that. And you're golden. And this is also the funny thing about not getting proper exercise anymore. And I'm going to put Andre's comment on the screen and talk about Nana, because this is a good comment, but I don't want to forget about it. Because we're all stuck in lockdown, we've gotten moreover unfit. I was super fit, believe it or not, before this thing started. Then we could start running again. I'm like, fitness level is gone. It's non-existent. So if you were fat and unhealthy before this thing happened, you've been training the way you fight all along, because all of us are now at your level and you've got experience at your level, and you'll just beat us all because we're not used to operating this way. So everyone that was a slob, that refused to exercise, couch potatoes, you guys have beaten us all at our own game, and we now have to play catch up to you because of lockdown. So who would have thought that the end of the world will be about who's most used to being unfit? So yeah, we should actually, and you know what? If Rob is still watching, he'll read that. Otherwise, I'll bring it up with him. Definitely. There's no reason a private entity cannot do the management and oversight of the registry. There's no reason it should be a police function at all. I mean, it's not in their mandate to do this kind of administration. So there's no constitutional reason for it, and there's no rational reason for it. Rick is right about 50,000 votes to get shooting ranges reopened, level 3. That should be a man, without even breaking a sweat, dude. We should get that. Problem with trying to get to comments that a lot of people in these groups are just spectators. It's unfortunately, the thing is, we need to get people involved to take ownership. This is called active citizenship. Take ownership of stuff that matter to you. Like Paratus has always been the gun rights thing. It's kind of, with this whole lockdown thing, we've branched out a lot into other aspects of civil rights, because gun rights are civil rights, because, you know, there's a lot of enmeshment, how they're intertwined with each other. You can't really look at them in isolation all the time. At some point, you have to wake up and go, okay, gun rights, civil rights, let's go. Where the one goes, the other goes. And I hope a lot of South Africans have changed their way of thinking, their mindset, about civil rights. Because a lot of people told us previously, the government wouldn't take your guns. There's so much petty tyranny coming from the ANC at this point in time. Nothing is beneath them. They took your morning walk from you. You're not allowed to walk on the beach. You're not allowed to walk your dog. You're not allowed to buy cigarettes or alcohol. If they can do things that are that petty with no science behind it or reasoning, of course they can take your guns. Like this for once and for all kills the argument of the crowd that accuses us of being conspiracy theorists, because the ANC and the government has just proved that they are capable of anything. Like, there is not any type of power they're not willing to get drunk on. Goes Fenter, we're bombarded by stay safe on our stupid phones. Yeah, you can't block that number. I tried. It doesn't allow you to block it, but you can mute it. So mine doesn't come up at all. The government keeps sending me messages, wasting their money. I don't receive them. So the joke's on them if they think I'm reading their nonsense. Really? Okay, Armand makes a good point. The website is already open for level 3 regulation comments. Then I will go find that and I will post it on the Paratus Facebook page so we can all start commenting. And I think there's nothing wrong, Armand, from jumping. You're not jumping the gun. I think you're leading the charge here, mate, and we're all going to pile in behind you. So thank you for making me aware of this, and I think all of us will pile in behind this. Beatrice, a good friend of mine, excellent seeing you on my live stream. And parking lot is full, and people are going about their business. We might as well just lift this whole thing. There's really no point in it lockdown staying any longer. Rick, a lot of people who are scared to death of getting the virus. Look, it's not something you want. It's not pleasant getting sick with those kinds of symptoms. And like a really, really bad flu or case of pneumonia, it can kill you. But at the same time, you also can't stay locked up in your house forever, starving to death, which is currently a far greater threat by, exponentially more. And I think that's where people need to kind of face reality that, it's no longer practical to have your fear of getting sick override your ability to provide for yourself or your family. How many people are going to fail paying rent end of this month? How many people are going to fail servicing their home loans or the financing on their car or pay for their medical aid next month? I know a whole lot of people that already couldn't afford those things now for May. Affording them end of May for June, people are going to keep falling off this bus, and there will be major economic consequences of that. So, I mean, it's not like we can act as if everything is hunky-dory in the land of Canaan, because it really is not. Jay, that's exactly how I felt after going for my first run like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago when they first allowed us. Gun rights, like a right leg, exactly. It's a leg of civil rights. Okay, well, this is also true. Of course, someone has a tender on this. Of course, someone is making money on these bulk SMSs that the government keeps sending us. Rick, my mom is one. I hear some comments. I'm actually not going to read it out loud. Everyone can read it. It's on the screen. I suppose I don't have to, but this is true. It is a virus that is making people who get it potentially very sick. It's making about 2 to 4% of everyone who contracts it ends up having a severe case of it. And of that 2 to 4%, a smaller proportion ends up dead. But so it can make you, it has a potential to make you very ill. The fact is also, though, that it makes you sicker than the flu and pneumonia, but not markedly more so. Otherwise, we would really have noticed. Every flu season, people die from it. A lot of people die from pneumonia on a daily basis. And in fact, if you look at the US, about 650,000 Americans die every year from heart disease, and another 625,000 die every year from cancer and cancer-related illnesses. So those two are by far the biggest killers from a natural causes point of view in the United States of America. I don't think South Africa would look much different. You know, heart disease-wise, we're the fattest, most obese nation in Africa. We do have a lot of cancer deaths annually. Then we've got tuberculosis and HIV, and the AIDS-related deaths stacked on top of that. So we are already suffering a lot of stuff that kills people, yet we don't panic about the stuff. We panic about COVID-19 because it's in the media and it's killing people. And we go, oh God, you know, your odds of being murdered in SA are still vastly more than dying of COVID-19. And I think that's something that we mustn't lose sight of and that people mustn't forget. Like, if you tell me you're afraid to go outside because you might get murdered, I'd be like, you know, that's kind of a rational fear in SA. If you tell me you're afraid to go outside because there's a virus that's 99.998% survivable, I'd be like, look, if you're of advanced age, if you have pre-existing comorbidities and all sorts of stuff like that, then do self-isolate and don't go outside and do try to protect yourself. That makes sense. That's rational risk management. But don't tell the entire country that we should all stay at home and starve to death and lose our jobs and houses because you're afraid to die. I'm sorry. Like, it also boils down, and this is very insensitive, but at this stage, if you're going to die, then die. Like, I'm willing to take the chance to go out there and get sick and die, because right now I need to work and be productive to stay alive. Otherwise, I will die from other stuff. And, you know, if a virus gets me, then that's just the way it is. But at some point, you know, we have to also face the reality. Beardy makes a good point. It will only work at 70% of the population a year. And if you're hungry, don't care. And if you were like me, who went past Kaimandi and Khayelitsha yesterday, there's no lockdown in the townships, like none whatsoever. There aren't masks. There's no lockdown. People are carrying on. There's no point for middle-class suburbia to stay in lockdown either. It's like lockdown doesn't exist. It only exists in the head of the middle class. In reality, lockdown doesn't exist. And Paul, your mom is awesome. She sounds like a real battle axe, and good on her. Absolutely good on her. Yeah, so I need to make sure that this is in fact correct, but Sweden's death rates, or Sweden's peak deaths, haven't moved forward in weeks. They had their peak, it came down, it settled, and they carried on without wrecking their economy. Ryan, now Ryan is a fellow state airline employee, like I am, and we actually went to air school together. So it's good to see on, bizarrely good to see on my channel, Ryan. Yeah, suicide rates, dude. This is the magic question. I would not be remotely surprised if we see a humongous spike in suicide rates, just from, you know, the mental health side of stuff I've already unpacked, you know, stressing about income, stressing about providing for the basics, providing for their families. A friend of mine was aware of 5 suicides regarding people he knew, or in circles that social circles that he moved in the space of 2 weeks. 5 suicides from one source in the space of 2 weeks. That's massive. And I think it's going to get worse the more morbid the economic and social situation becomes. Again, why it's so important that this thing gets lifted so that people can get some sense of normality back in their lives, some sort of normal social interaction, some sort of normal relationship with others and their families. It's critical. And I do believe that suicide hotlines are overwhelmed with calls. There was an article on EWN or ENCA over the weekend that was in relation to the story. So yeah, I'm fully convinced that we are definitely experiencing a rise in suicides. It's just not reported wildly. Guys, yeah, I think I think we're all on the same page with this. I just wanted to do this quick, like hour-long live stream just to check in with you, make sure you guys are doing okay, talk a little bit about new developments. I will get the DRSA stuff on the page. I'll get Paul Oxley's interview about the Ghost of Court case on Friday on the page. And we will definitely do this again, possibly tomorrow, definitely later the week. Please do tune in to the Bunker's Technical Tuesday tonight about legal specific questions on the CHS Bunker. And that's about it from my side. Look after yourselves. Try to stay sane. It's difficult, but do try. And we will have this conversation or another conversation soon. Thanks for always tuning in and listening to me talk rubbish. You guys have been great. See you soon.